Hello, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Olivia Amos. It's nice to meet you. Today, we would be discussing penetration testing and all the concepts that are included in penetration testing as far as you know for now. Of course, there's a lot more to consider if you choose to go deeper in this, but this is the it's an understandative course. You understand? You get to know what penetration testing is in this class. You would also get to know concepts like reconnaissance and even VM virtual machines. That's what VM means. Virtual machine exploitation. Eventually, we would get into web exploitation, but until then, for now, it's just penetration testing and the things that are involved in penetration testing. We would also talk about reconnaissance and then VM exploitation. So let us get to our slides. Boom. This bar. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's begin. Penetration testing. Penetration testing is, in a sense, just trying to understand the kind of exploitations that could occur in your system, and you are taking control of those type of exploitations. Now look at this, for example. An attacker actually tries to exploit your system. Yesterday, I was mentioning a concept to you where I was like, okay, fine. Well, somebody was trying to brute force into your system around 12 p.m. That's suspicious, right? But you are sleeping. You are asleep. Most people are asleep by 12 p.m. at that time. And, well, you don't know that this exploit is happening. And frankly, in this particular scenario, that's without penetration testing being involved in your system, you do not have measures set up to combat these type of problems, right? So fine, you then choose, fine, after seeing that this has happened. Yeah, I know I said it earlier, but regardless, we are trying to simulate attacks intentionally. Like, this is my company. Assuming my company's name is Company A, I intentionally become an attacker to try to exploit my system. Do you understand? Let me move on to the next slide so we get to see some of the concepts that are included in penetration testing. Now, coming from what is here, that what is penetration testing? It is a simulated. Now remember what I said earlier, where it's like you are trying to design it like as though you are the one that's the exploiter. But anyways, it's a simulated, authorized. That authorized word is a very key one, but we'll get to it. Let me finish reading it. A simulated, authorized attack on a system used to find and demonstrate weaknesses before a real attacker does. Going back to our example, we spoke about how, yes, somebody's trying to exploit you by 12 p.m. You are asleep. That's a real attacker. But if you had carried out a penetration test, right, where if something of the sort was happening within that time period, within that exploitation analysis, and anything else that could occur, because it might not just be SSH, it might not just be brute force, it might be something else, right? If you try to do it and then you get your defensive team, just like we spoke about yesterday when we were talking about what defensive is about and how defensive operations are carried out and how we can support our system using the defensive team. If you have someone that you allow, and that's what I talk about for authorized. You allow this person to do it. Do you understand? So, oh my God, I feel like I keep saying yesterday, but let's forget yesterday. If you are a defensive professional, your job is to what? Support, protect, right? That's what you ought to do. Sorry, I want you to be like, yeah. So I just want to hear your voice. Okay. So as a defensive professional, your job is to support, is to detect, and is to protect. These three things, very important. And as a penetration tester or attacking individual, right? As most people know it as, your job is to try to frustrate the efforts of those people that are trying to support, detect, and protect. Because you want to show them that, look, your system still has vulnerabilities. But this is all happening in an authorized manner. If someone unknown is trying to penetration test, say penetration test with what's it called? With closed, no, not phishing. Phishing is a different thing. Phishing is under social engineering. And I can actually explain that to you if you want me to, but that will be in a different time, right? Please remind me so I'll say it properly. I say this in quotes where it's like, if you want to like, you're not part of the organization, nobody gave you authorization to carry out a test on this system to see whether they are secure. For example, we have some banks and we're in Nigeria, and imagine GT Bank. What bank do you use? Access. Okay, let's me. I also use Access. And imagine if you can Okay. Imagine if you can comfortably find a vulnerability with Access Bank. In fact, you didn't even see the vulnerability trying to find it, but there is a vulnerability, and you know of it, and you are not part of Access Bank. Access Bank didn't send this. They didn't send you to do this, right? And you're like, well, though you do have this issue, so let me try and solve it by showing you the problem. Taking it back a second, I was in a I was reading something cybersecurity related one time. And it was of this. Was it like he was a teenager, and he decided to hack a bank? What he did was he conveniently hacked the bank and took out the information they need. No, not hack it. He penetration tested it, I guess. But okay, I won't say penetration testing. The reason why I will say penetration testing is because penetration testing is done in what? A simulated authorized manner. So he hacked it. And he came for the job interview. It was an interview he was going for. He came for the job interview and he was like, look, these are the vulnerabilities in your system. I can help you solve them. Conveniently enough for him, they allowed him with the job. They said, wow, you're so good. Jiggers. But that's a 1% chance of that happening. You know what the other 99% chance is happening? You will go to jail. Very simply, nobody's going to ask the question, why are you hacking my system? Do you understand? You hacked my system, you now came out, told me you hacked yourself, there you go. Do you understand? Go to jail because you've performed something unauthorized. Beautiful. So that's where penetration testing comes in. It is authorized. I hired you to come and hack me. If you're not hired, it's a different case. But if you are, then you're allowed to do whatever else you want to. There's this what they call it, podcast that I used to listen to. Darknet Diaries. It talks about lots of cybersecurity things that happen in the world, and I've listened to a couple of them. And with those couple, I've seen some people talk about how they have been in penetration testing roles, and they were able to, you understand? So why did he hack the CCTV camera? Because he wanted to gain physical access into the building of wherever he was sent to. Mind you, this is a penetration tester, right? He did a lot of wrong things. That job as a penetration tester, he then went to this company. They hired him. They said he should find out non-physical vulnerabilities. But we'll get into the differences between them, the physical and the non-physical vulnerabilities. Leave that for now. In his findings, he was able to hack their CCTV cameras, block where he was going to walk through. You know how I used to look through with movies and stuff like that. That's okay. Somebody will be like, oh, no. And back in the mainframe, don't worry, you can run. They're just examples of type of things that can and actually do happen in our day-to-day lives. But still, before we even get into any of those, let's look at more of what our slides say. Again, it's a simulated attack. You are actually trying to get information you shouldn't have, right? And with that, it is safely happening and by agreement. Without agreement, without it happening safely, you're already in trouble. Funny enough, there have been many cases where penetration testers that were sent to do their work, did outside their work, and found work outside their work in the same company, right? That still went to jail. Why did they go to jail? Because they did outside the scope of what they ought to do. You need to be very careful as a penetration tester on what you can and cannot do. What you can and cannot do. It is clearly, and it should be clearly defined before when you start your work as a penetration tester, what you should and should not be able to do. Now, penetration testing is in the line of red teaming, right? I told you blue teaming is for defensive operations. Red teaming is we find penetration testing, hackers, white hat hackers, gray hat hackers, black hat hackers. And let me even explain that to you before I go further. There are three major types of hackers. White hats, black hats, gray hats. Gray hats isn't talked about a lot, but we'll get to it. White hat hackers are penetration testers. You are the ones that are going through that simulated experience, that authorized experience. You understand? You were sent, you are even paid for what you are doing. You understand? That's your job as a white hat hacker. A black hat hacker, that's in our Nigerian terms, Yahoo boys, scammers. Somebody's Nigerian uncle, Nigerian prince. You understand? Those are the black hat hackers. They are doing it either maybe for or money, typically. Like either fame or money. Sometimes some hackers, they hack not because they are earning anything from it. They just hack for the fun of it. I heard of an attack that happened recently where this guy from, I guess, the UK, he opened up some banks, right? Was able to find his way through them using penetration testing, right? I mean, using the skills learned in penetration testing to exploit a bank. Now, he didn't touch any of their money. He didn't touch anything like that. He didn't do anything you would typically, as a layman, say is malicious. But what he did do was reveal the BVN, that's bank verification number, the NIN, that's national identification number. You know, these are very, very sensitive information. Name, address, emails of all the workers at this company. So it leaves you to think that, wow, if this person could have done this, they could have done so much more to even the customers of this system. Do you get? And that's something that happened very recently. It happened this year, like I think 2, 3 months ago. You get. So penetration testing can actually be very dangerous if put in the wrong hands, right? So that's why you always have to think about how your own is morale. Is morals, right? Your morals, like how grounded are they when it comes to, because that differentiation after learning, you need to learn in penetration testing and in attacking and hacking and cracking and all these type of things, and even in things you spoke about earlier like phishing, right? How do these type of things, how do they like imply to you as a human being? Is this a path you would go through? As teachers and lecturers and instructors and all these type of things, we know saying you, we didn't send you to do anything malicious with this. Nobody did. So don't go out, do something bad and please. You understand? It's always in a protected laboratory situation. So anything malicious that might come out of that, not that saying that, okay, yes, you would actually go and do something bad with it. But anything malicious that might come out of that is not our doing, right? Judge the right way. Okay, your company thinks they are very, they are good. Their defensive team, they are doing very well. I told you about logs yesterday. Things are coming, events are happening in your system. And when I mean events, at least for those of you that are not completely versed in this, I mean for every action that happens or occurs in your system, there's a log. And a log is more like a record of it, right? So those records are, they're kept, they're kept there. And that's what you as a penetration tester would ask your system, right? It's not that you are actually asking it, it's more like you're querying it. For example, there's an open port. An open port is kind of like a doorway into the system. In fact, a port is a doorway into the system. Now, an open port is an open door. Imagine you have a house, and this your house has 26 doors. For example, I just picked the number randomly. This your house has 26 doors. Because you know it has 26 doors, you typically would want to, do you understand? And even those ones, you look at it with side eye. Are you really necessary? Do you understand? Do I need to leave you open? And even if I leave you open, should I leave you open 24 hours of the day, 7 days of the week? You start think about things like this. You leave your front door open sometimes when you are not in the house. When you are in the house, you leave your front door open. When you go outside of your house, you close your front door, right? And in the cybersecurity translation of that first thing I just said, that thing I just said, it's like if you have open ports that typically. Yes, I am. One second, sorry. Okay. Okay. No problem. But still, right? Okay. Still, if you have those doors open and you are not currently using your system, and when I'm saying doors, I mean ports. I want to switch from using doors to using ports, right? If you have certain ports open, you would actually like to keep some of them closed because leaving door open might be negatively impacting your system. So you close as many as you can. Leave your front door open, maybe your back kitchen door open, and if you're not in the house, you close everything up. Beautiful. That's typically how it works. But in cybersecurity, it's more like, if leaving this door open is not negatively impacting my system, I think I can leave it open. Like if you're hosting a system, if you're hosting a website, rather, maybe your website is Immaculate, right? Okay, your website is immaculate.com, right? Immaculate.com is sitting on port 80 or port 443 because it's a secure system. 443 is for what? HTTPS, right? 443 is for HTTPS. Beautiful. So you know that you are currently always using that port. So you might want to leave it open and it's secure. But in as much as you leave that door open, you should still have defenses. You understand? Like bouncers, bodyguards that are at the front of the door that is like, okay, who's entering? Who's entering? Do you know how that happens in cybersecurity translation? It's more like, oh, who can log into the system? Show me that you're a member of this group of people that can enter. You understand? With that in mind. But at that, like in that same state, you don't want to leave a door open that is for file transfer, that anybody can transfer any file into your system. Do you understand? Because if anybody can transfer any file into your system, so we're in other trouble, right? An attacker will come in and drop a malicious code, a virus. You're in trouble, right? Beautiful. So that's where penetration testing helps to find weaknesses, because you hired me to pretend to be an attacker. And I'll come into your system and I'll look at, out of those, shades 26 I mentioned earlier, I'll look at, out of those 26 doors, which ones did you forget to close? Or which ones did you not close? I look at your 443. I say, let me try and enter. Now, I mentioned bouncers earlier. Bouncers in this cybersecurity states, they mean like actual, like, defenses that you have. I mentioned the bouncers. I come into the 443 door. The bouncers say, who are you? And somehow, I'm able to your bouncers and like, oh, don't worry. I collect someone else's key. I collect someone else's login, enter into your system. They think I'm that person. I have successfully entered into your system. As a penetration tester, I have done my job. What do I do after that? I give you a report. Somebody else can enter into your system. I found what? A weakness. Just that's the second point that we just spoke about. In another case, maybe I came in through that 443 door. 433 door. Come into the door. The bouncers see me. Who are you? I tried to give them something. They said, no, that's not you. I said, okay, fine. Sorry, you're right. It's not me. They kick me out. I said, okay, nice. I go around your house. I look for which other ones of your doors are open. I see FTP. What's FTP? Do you know what FTP is? Let me see. File transfer protocol. Somebody's trying to, anybody, now imagine that your FTP door is open, meaning that anybody who wants to throw in any files, documents, anything, they can throw it in. It's open. So, okay. I enter in, put in some logins that I found somewhere. I drop a malicious file into your system. You collect it because the door is open, right? That's a weakness. Now, I'm speaking about this like as though it's just virtual machines. It's just systems that I'm trying to attack. But the sweet part about penetration testing is it's not only systems that you can attack. You can attack web services. You can attack web services. You can attack databases. You can attack so many things. Cloud services, as long as it is something the system is currently hosting. and I see I see a weakness rather. I see an exploitable vein. I'll go for it because what? I'm a penetration tester. You hired me to do this. Moving on, right? The next other thing that penetration testing can help you with is to improve your defenses. Because when I try out some attacks, your system is susceptible. So you know what I mean. You're susceptible is now. Your system is susceptible to these attacks. You defend your system against that attack I found out, right? Beautiful. So because you have now defended against it, if I try it again, it won't work because you did it well. Beautiful. So if a real attacker, someone who actually came to break down your defenses, to do everything, actually came to the system and they tried that same thing that I had already tried, you have already defended, and we both did our jobs properly, they should not be able to enter through that path. However, it's very likely, and rather, it's more likely than not. There's no system in this world that's 100% secure. So I try one thing, it didn't work. I try another thing, it didn't work. I try another thing, maybe it's worked. You understand? So that's why penetration testers and defensive engineers, security engineers, SOC analysts, all of these cybersecurity professionals work together to making sure that, yes, we know 100% is not guaranteed and it is not a secure thing that can actually happen, even though it can, even though it can't, because the internet itself is already susceptible. It's already a limiter to you. But I'm trying my best to achieve 100%, right? I'm always trying to simulate my attacks, create documentations, give it to the defensive systems, give it to the higher ups, right? The CEO, the CISO, that's Chief Information Security Officer. I give it to all these people. Tell them, look, this is how the system is currently performing at. You people can do more, right? And everybody's like, okay, beautiful, let's do more. You do more, you defend against more things that occur in your system. Think of it as a fire drill for your security. You've been in a fire drill before, haven't you? Fire drill. You've never been in a building or anything that they start ringing one loud alarm, even in secondary school or primary school or anything. Okay, well, I have been in one, right? And I know some other people might have been in one. Maybe it's never occurred with you, but yes, fire drills. So you just have to ring an alarm. There's a fire. There's a fire. They start telling everybody, okay, let's move out in an orderly fashion. Yes, there's a fire, but let's move out in an orderly fashion. Everybody lines up. We move out carefully and quietly, even though there's a fire. Don't start, oh my God, there's a fire. Let me start grabbing this. Don't grab anything you need to, right? Work on your fire drill safety. You understand? Move out, everybody's outside of the building. When we're outside of the building, they start to tell us this was just a drill, right? So that in the case of an actual fire, you would be prepared. You understand what I mean? And that's what penetration testing is. In the case of an actual attack, the system will be prepared. That makes sense, right? Let's move on. So why do organizations perform penetration testing? There are 4 reasons why, and there are actually even more reasons if you choose to go through learning more reasons. But these are the 4 major reasons why organizations perform penetration testing. One of them is to find the weaknesses of your systems early. It would be best to know that your system has a problem before somebody you don't even know comes and tell you have, right? So I'm gonna write it on the board. 4 reasons why. What's the first one? Find the weaknesses early. Let's get a guy. Are you with me? Hmm? We'll call this person Bob. Bob is going around his merry days. He's just doing however he feels to do. Hmm? But Bob has, like, I'm trying to separate it from cybersecurity so it makes sense before we bring it back to cybersecurity, right? Bob has a problem. What's Bob's problem? Bob's leg is short. One leg is shorter than the other. Bob has never found a solution to it. But Bob has money. Like as if he can't find a solution to it. One of his legs is just short. Here comes Alice. Let's give Alice some hair. So what does she do? Any small thing now, Alice comes and meets Bob. She'll kick his other leg. What does he do? He falls. And Alice comes and Alice trips Bob. Because why? Alice is the bad guy. She's actively trying to make Bob fall down. That's what attackers do. Do you understand? That's why I left Alice with A, right? She knows Bob has a problem. She goes and exploits Bob's problem just for a laugh. Maybe somebody dared her. Maybe somebody said, if I bet you, you can't do it. If you do it, I'll give you $50 million. Alice will go and, if not you, you understand? $50 million. Let's think about it. You understand? He goes and trips him. He falls down. He's bleeding, he's crying, he's obsessed, doesn't give him crying eyes. These are things that can happen in your system. However, knowing that Bob has a weakness, let's ignore these guys. Knowing that Bob has a weakness, right? Let's give somebody the name of Gray. His name is Gray. Gray says, Bob, what kind of things can't you do? Bob says, well, he can't properly climb staircases. He can't properly use ladders. So Gray now says, okay, if I trip you, what happens? Bob says he don't know. So Gray trips him. Bob falls. Mind you, Bob and Gray are friends. Gray trips him, Bob falls. He falls down. He wants to start crying. Gray says, look, if me tripping you will cause you to cry, let's go and find a solution. So that the next time someone tries to trip you, you will not fall. Gray is Bob's friend. In cybersecurity terms, it's more like, look, right? If anything wants to happen to Bob, we've already done it. Have you ever heard the statement, who needs enemies when you have friends? Have you ever heard that statement? It only means that nobody hurts me. Nobody can hurt me past the way that I have experienced it from my friends. And the way I've experienced it from my friends, I mean, I'm just explaining that statement. The way I've experienced it from my friends, I'm comfortable. So if you try to say that same thing that might have hurt me when my friend said it, I'm cool with it. You can't break down my defenses because my defenses now are strong. Back into cybersecurity. You have your system. Somebody is here. He's trying to attack you. Oh my God, this is okay. But this person is trying to attack you. However, the thing he's trying to do, this other person has already done it before. And I increased my security. So therefore, whatever this person wants to do cannot harm me. That's how penetration testing works. Because we've already gone through it. And with this in mind, we find weaknesses early. We're able to protect a lot more data and systems. We reduce the risk of breaches and downtime. And I don't know if you understand what downtime is, but it's more like imagine a system is actually being like currently hacked for a bit of time. They might not be able to function as properly as they should. And you reduce that risk of that happening because you've already handled all these issues. Boom, you meet the compliances. Now, compliance kind of entertains GRC. And you've heard about GRC before. We've already even discussed GRC in previous classes and previous lives, right? So, I mean, like YouTube live. But it helps you meet more compliances because your system is more secure. At every point that you notice a discrepancy, you're like, I've done this. I can give you documentation even for what I've done. And not just what I've done, but also what the other team has done. They've seen me attack them. They've defended their systems better. Beautiful. So at this point now, it also prioritizes fixes. You get a clear evidence-based list of what to fix and how to fix it. And not just also the order of how to fix it. Because everything that the penetration tester does, you get information that you can report back to other people and be like, Omo, can I tell you what just happened in the penetration test I did? You would not believe the kind of information I've been able to get. This is very, very severe. This might not be as severe, but you should also look at it. Remember rule levels from yesterday. This might not be as severe, but you should also look at this. So you now start to, as a defensive engineer that's looking at the information coming from the penetration tester, you start to look at it and be like, okay, this is the most severe thing that's happened. Let us start to resolve that first. You then start to go down the line of things that are most, you start to go down from things that are most critical to solve to least critical to solve. You go ahead and solve them all, just so that the next time something happens, your system isn't vulnerable. Moving on, we're going to talk about the penetration testing methodology. Over here, we have planning and scope. We have reconnaissance, we have scanning, we have exploitation, and we have reporting. This is key to note down, right? Planning and scope. Between this space, you know what's... Now, I'm talking to you like as though you are not a hacker. You're not trying to do anything malicious. You are actually intentionally and in a very simulated and or proper manner authorized, right? Authorized is a very key word. You are authorized to do these processes. You are trying to pass into a system and find out what they have, like what their weaknesses are. First thing you do is plan. You want to understand, okay, what do you want to do? What kind of systems are available? What kind of things can I do, right? And thereabouts. Within this planning and scope, you agree the goals, you agree your targets, and you agree the rules. I told you authorized at the beginning of this thing, and I keep mentioning that word because if you are being hired, you'll be hired under the umbrella of what should I be able to use? What should I be able to do with your system? Do you want to give me full access? Do you want to give me partial access? Or do you want to give me low access? Do you understand? Full access means almost anything you can use to help us do. But imagine I started working for Google as a cybersecurity penetration tester. And then Google now says, you have full access. And I'm like, full access? Really? Oh, thank you so much. And with my full access now, halfway into the penetration testing, I send documents I'm getting to a friend. Just like, guy, can you imagine? See what I just got. Mind you, I've not actually even done anything intentionally malicious. But what if my friend is not malicious? Also, my friend rather is malicious. For example, I don't know if you know, which movie was it? I can't remember what movie it was. But there was this movie, that they sent to somebody who was working at the cinema office. The guy got the movie. He was like, oh my God, can you imagine the movie is out? He works at the cinema. It's his job, box office type of thing. It's his job to get the movie and give it to play it for the viewers that are coming to watch the movie. But he just said, I beg, may you just send out to your friend. At least let his friend also just watch the movie. In less than 5 minutes, right? How many million people got a hold of that same movie? And then that's just within 5 minutes, within a longer period of time, right? The company that was supposed to have gotten a lot more money, because those people that would have watched it with that, shared this thing, they would have come to the movie and paid the company. So the company lost a lot of money. I mean, they didn't actually lose because they never had this in the first place. But there's money they could have gained that they never got. So they lost it. And within that losing period, you start to think, at least as a cybersecurity engineer, that exchange between this person and his friend, but should never have happened. Do you understand? It should never have happened. And if they had had proper measures to support such a funny engagement, right? Such a funny engagement, they would not have as much loss as possible. Because they are supposed to sue that person straight up. But they didn't have the measures to sue him before that happened. Do you understand? So he went away practically scot-free. I don't know if he's still in courts or whatever. I think this happened this year, right? I don't know if it's still a court trial happening. What I'm saying is they didn't have measures in place to handle such a situation. And that already caused them to lose so much. So as a penetration tester, you are the measure put in place so that companies don't lose that much. You plan it. They let you know what you can have, what you can use. Okay, Google says, look, come and work for us as a penetration tester, but only work in YouTube. You know, YouTube is a product of Google, right? Only work in YouTube. And that YouTube is not everything you are going to work with, though. You are only working with YouTube downloads. Like, see how more secure we can be with the kind of things people can download. That means you should not have any business with Gmail. Anything that is carrying your hand to go and touch Gmail, you're already in trouble. Do you understand? That's under planning and scope. We have reconnaissance. Now that you understand that you are only under YouTube and the download section of YouTube, the downloading of videos on YouTube, you start to do reconnaissance. What's reconnaissance? You're learning about the target. You're learning about how the YouTube downloads work. Like the typical way a normal person would use the YouTube downloads, how a malicious person would use the YouTube downloads, how a mid person would use the YouTube downloads, someone who's pretty normal and is not expressly trying to be malicious, right? They are even probably not malicious. Maybe they're just there for being there. And that brings me back to something that I didn't explain earlier. I told you about hackers, that's penetration testers. I told you about black hat hackers who are into the malicious aspects of things. But I told you there was also gray. Gray hat hackers they don't have a moral obligation to be white. But at the same time, that's white hat hackers. But at the same time, they don't have the drive to be black, to be malicious. A lot of the times, you see gray hat hackers, they just go to a company, maybe even just hack them and be like, okay, hi, you hacked, pay me so I can unhack you, or something like that, right? regardless, these type of things happen. Grey hat hackers are not, they're not the most angelic people in cybersecurity, but they're not devils either. They're not trying to actually be malicious toward you, but they're not, they don't have any obligation to be trying to protect your system. Do you understand? So if you were to give me the choice of putting them between, you know, scales, I would tell you they're still under black. Yes, because the fact that they have a stain of black, right? So, I mean, gray is a stain of black on white, and it's also a stain of white on black. That's the thing with them. They're just kind of in the middle. It's a little hard to explain it right now, but they're not actively trying to harm your system. Most of the time is to find opportunities through how, and when they find an opportunity, they then branch out into other things. You understand? Maybe they branch into white or branch into black, right? But this type of things happen. Still, we're talking about reconnaissance. With reconnaissance, you're learning about the targets. You're finding out the target's IP address, the target's, the ports that are open. Remember when I was talking about ports, I was talking about the ports are the doors that are available open in the system. You find out about the doors that are open, the ports that are open, the protocols that exist on those ports, right? Still another concept in cybersecurity, right? I don't know, you know, protocols. Okay. Find out about the ports,